Hello, and welcome to this news event held by the law firm Piper Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise, or Piper Wolf for short. You'll be hearing from three speakers today, and then we'll open the floor for questions during the Q&A period. The Q&A period will be for reporters only, and if you wish to ask a question, use the raise your hand function and your line will be unmuted when it's your turn to ask a question. For more info, go to piperwolf.com where you can find the news release, court filing, and more. And in a moment, we'll also drop a direct link to the release in the chat window for you. So as I mentioned, you'll be hearing from three speakers today. First, Ashley K. Sletvold, partner at Piper Wolf. Second, Jerome Staley, plaintiff and former AAMCO Transmissions LLC employee. And third, Joe Pfeiffer, managing partner at Piper Wolf. So let's go ahead and get started with our first speaker, Ashley K. Sletvold, partner at Piper Wolf.
Greetings and thank you for joining this news event. My name is Ashley K. Sletvold and I'm a partner at Piper Wolf. Today, on behalf of our client, Jerome Staley, who we'll hear from shortly, we filed a civil rights complaint against AAMCO Transmissions, its CEO, James Gregory, and its former director of franchise development, Kimberly Robinson, for race discrimination and retaliation for opposing it. Jerome Staley was the first ever Black executive at AAMCO. He started as a regional manager for the Southeast region, where he showcased outstanding performance metrics. He was promoted to vice president of operations for the East region and was even sent to assist other vice presidents to improve their respective territories. Simply put, Jerome Staley was a star. And as a star, AAMCO used Jerome to emphasize its brand new diversity in the months after George Floyd's murder, including having Jerome appear on television to represent AAMCO and flying him in to meet with potential new hires of color. AAMCO held up Jerome as an example of how diverse professionals could succeed at the company. But AAMCO was paying Jerome $40,000 less per year than his white peers, the same peers he was tasked with helping. Now, when Jerome brought the pay disparity to AAMCO's attention and requested equal compensation, AAMCO refused. CEO James Gregory said he was disappointed in Jerome for complaining, telling him, "You make enough." AAMCO then retaliated against Jerome by denying him the quarterly bonus he earned based on his territory's performance. After AAMCO refused to pay Jerome a salary on par with his white counterparts and denied his quarterly bonus, Jerome resigned. He later applied to become an AAMCO franchisee. Other former AAMCO executives, including those who were fired, had been approved to become franchisees in the past. But AAMCO wrongfully denied Jerome's application, prohibiting him from jointly operating a store with the only other Black franchisees in the Southeast region. Jerome was suspicious that AAMCO denied his franchisee application because of his complaints of race-based pay discrimination. When he asked about the denial, AAMCO's then director of franchise development, Kimberly Robinson, said the denial was because of how you left, referring to his complaints of race discrimination before he resigned. His suspicions were dead on. Now, before I turn it over to Jerome to tell you more, let me emphasize this. AAMCO's racist pay practices are unacceptable. While promoting itself as a paragon of corporate diversity, AAMCO chose to drastically underpay its only Black executive and retaliating against him for expecting equal compensation. American corporations can't just talk the talk on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you. That is the end of my statement. I'll look forward to taking your questions.
Again, that was Ashley K. Sletvold, partner at Piper Wolf. And let's go to our second speaker, Jerome Staley, plaintiff and former AAMCO employee.
Hello, my name is Jerome Staley, and I'm from Philadelphia. Thank you for joining this news event and listening to my story. I invested years of my life in a company that valued me only as a Black poster child to promote its own inclusivity. But AAMCO's inclusivity was a lie. I put my heart and soul into my job, and I was good, damn good. Don't take my word for it. There are stats and metrics to back that up. but AAMCO refused to treat me fairly and pay me what my white colleagues made. When I voiced my concerns, I was dismissed. The COO ignored my concerns and the CEO told me I made enough. And it wasn't easy to speak up. On more than one occasion, I heard AAMCO's CEO, Mr. Gregory, openly say that AAMCO's industry was only for Italians and Jews. AAMCO retaliated against me for asking for equal compensation and refused to pay me an $11,000 bonus I rightfully earned, but it didn't just stop there. After I resigned from AAMCO, I went to partner with an AAMCO franchisee in Aiken, South Carolina, which was owned by the only 2 Black franchisees in the Southeast region. I applied to be a co-franchisee with them, but as you have already heard, my application was wrongfully denied. AAMCO then targeted the Aiken store because I was there. The company demanded that the owners sell the franchise to a white corporate employee for less than they had paid to purchase. When the owners declined, AAMCO demanded a payment of $20,000 in unexplained fees. It didn't end there. AAMCO targeted the Aiken store by artificially increasing the number of consumer complaints at the store, blocking our server access, designating the store as a target store for extra scrutiny, and stopping its contractually required efforts to provide staffing support. When I stop and think about everything that AAMCO put me through, I'm still in disbelief. While I was working my tail off for AAMCO, it was using me to make itself look diverse and refusing to pay me what my white colleagues made. Then AAMCO tried to silence me through retaliation, not only against me, but against the only Black franchisees in the Southeast region. This pattern of blatant racism has to stop. Thank you. That is the end of my statement.
Again, that was Jerome Staley, plaintiff and former AAMCO employee, and that takes us to our third and final speaker, Joe Pfeiffer, managing partner at Piper Wolf.
Hello, my name is Joe Pfeiffer, and I'm the managing partner at Piper Wolf. Before we go to the question and answer period, I just want to hit on a few additional points. First, I want to thank Jerome for his strength and courage for sharing his story. It's truly an honor to be representing you. Next, it would be nice to think that discrimination like this is rare or an exception. Although American society is at an inflection point concerning its history of systemic racism, corporate America has refused to take a genuine look in the mirror. I know this because of the volume of racial discrimination cases we handle every day. Racism is still running rampant in the workplace. If anything, corporations are just getting smarter about how not to get caught. Companies like AAMCO are promoting the diversity and inclusion, but they are not changing or evolving. AAMCO used Jerome Staley to join the chorus of brands releasing hollow solidarity statements in the wake of George Floyd's murder. While marketing to profit from the Black Lives Matter movement, AAMCO was engaging in systemic racism and retaliating against its Black employee and Black franchise owners. It's time to stop the empty and false diversity marketing. AAMCO needs to take action and focus on equity and inclusion. AAMCO can't sit around congratulating itself while it perpetuates racism. We won't stand for it. Jerome won't stand for it. This needs to change now. Thank you. That concludes my statement.
Again, that was Joe Pfeiffer, managing partner at Piper Wolf, and that takes us to the Q&A portion of the call. If you wish to ask a question, you can use the raise your hand function and your line will be unmuted when it's your turn to ask a question. As a reminder, the Q&A period is for reporters only. If you're having any issues with your own audio or the raise your hand function, you can use the text-based Q&A box and we'll try to get to your questions there. Before we begin, I just want to mention that a video recording of this event will be available online later at piperwolf.com, along with other media materials. That's piperwolf.com, no spaces. All right, let's go ahead and take our first question. It's coming from Christina Carrega at Capital B News. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you so much for hosting this event, everyone. I have a two-part question. I hope that's okay. Mr. Staley, I'm curious to know, how were you able to find out that you were being severely underpaid? And also, how do other Black and brown people who were elevated after the rise of after the death of George Floyd, how do they find out if they also are being severely underpaid compared to their other non-Black or brown counterparts?
That's a great question. So the way I found out was actually I was away at a corporate event, and one of my counterparts, another VP in my division, began talking about salary, talking about how he was looking to ask for a raise in the recent future, and we began to just talk about salaries and where he was. That came up in just a natural conversation. I think just by being open all around, by being open with each other, whether it is through various LinkedIn platforms or other platforms, and talking to others who are in the same positions, that is how Black and brown people all over the world will be able to be paid correctly and make sure that they're paid accordingly for the work that they are doing. So it did just come from a natural conversation, and then I did some fact finding myself to see if it was true. So that is how I did find out.
The next question is going to come from Raquel Williams at KYW Radio. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Raquel.
Thank you so much. My question is, what ultimately would you like to see as a result of this suit? Are you suing for any particular damages? Are you looking for an apology or some kind of change in structure at that company?
Ashley, do you want me to answer it completely, or would you like to begin to go over damages?
Obviously, the technical components of damages are items that will be evaluated throughout the suit. But in terms of how to change the systemic racism in historically white organizations is an answer that's too complicated for any one case to undo. We all have to do our part in identifying and rooting out the vestiges of historic racism that sadly continue to this day. Nothing is going to make Jerome feel like he wasn't wronged here, but certainly an acknowledgement that he was underpaid and an effort to correct that disparity now and in the future would be welcome from the defendants.
Yeah, I think AAMCO could just start by doing what they say they do. They put Jerome out there promoting that they had a big diversity program, and instead they were underpaying him to the tune of like $40,000 a year. How about this? How about they say they're sorry, they pay Jerome what he was owed, and they make sure that other Black and brown people are paid equally to their white counterparts. It's really just that simple. Do what you say. Don't put Jerome on marketing materials and then underpay him. It's not right. So Jerome, you can cover it from your perspective, but that's mine.
And then from my perspective, I mean, I'm from Philadelphia. I was born and raised there. I've been through a lot. And I looked at it from the perspective of, I'm just tired of people working their tails off just for companies that just continue to choose who they want to pay. Black lives only matter when they want to make it a mission statement, but it doesn't matter when it's time to actually pay out of their own pockets. And I'm just actually tired of just being a mission statement. And that's what I just want people to stand up all over and just be able to say, hey, I don't want to be something you just put out marketing material for. And I actually do want to be the person that you compensate for doing double the work. And then my metrics and everything that I've done within the company does prove that I was not just there filling a void and not just there just to be a Black executive, a part of the team. I actually was outperforming many of my counterparts. So no, it's not just being I'm Black and I just want to be here. No, it's I want to be able to perform. I want to be able to be included. I want to be a part of the team, and I also want to be paid accordingly to and what you would want to pay anyone of any other color. So that is what I would represent, and that's what I want other companies to see this and see the example and want to do for others from here on out.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to take a question from the Q&A box before we go to a follow-up from Christina Carrega. This is from Laura Michaels at Franchise Times. She asks, has AAMCO formally responded to your complaint?
No, the complaint was just filed this morning. We'll be serving it on the defense counsel that we already know are involved, and they'll have the court allotted time to respond.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to a follow-up from Christina Carrega at Capital B News. Christina, go ahead and unmute your line.
Thank you again. So I just wanted to know if you can give advice.
We lost you.
Sorry about that, Christina. Try again.
Oh, okay. Hi. Thank you so much for the opportunity again. Just wanted to know if there was any way you had any type of advice for those who are in this situation who may not work at like a big company like a AAMCO to know they have legal recourse. What advice should you give those who, you know, were elevated after George Floyd and may feel what you're feeling? What steps should they take? What advice would you give?
I mean, the number one thing I would do is just, hey, if you feel as though something you're being wrongfully done, ask around, ask people, voice it, reach out to any type of counsel. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, there are some things that I felt as though I was wronged about, and I ignored it for a very, very long time, even prior to some of the pay discrepancies. So I just say, hey, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to be an example. And if you feel as though that you're what you feel is strong enough to really fight for, then stand on that and don't back up from there. Find yourself great counsel, as I found, and then follow up on what you feel.
And I'll just follow on to that. I mean, I think that Jerome's exactly right. I mean, it typically by the time somebody gets to us, there's been a lot of discrimination, a lot of things have piled up. And so, you know, then talk to your coworkers and come talk to some competent counsel. It doesn't have to be us, although we definitely do lots of this stuff, but there's plenty of people out there that do it. Talk to them, and it may be that it's nothing, but frankly, by the time you're coming to see us, usually it's something. So go talk to somebody and see if there's something that can be done about it. Don't just take it.
So we'll do one more check for questions. I'm not showing any at this time. Ashley, Joe, Jerome, do any of you want to make a final comment before we adjourn?
Sure. To echo some of the sentiment I expressed before, as American corporations want to virtue signal and show that they're committed to issues of racial equity and inclusion. This is a perfect example of how half measures simply reinforce the racial hierarchy that we're trying to break with from the past. Diversity without equity is mere tokenism, and that's never enough.
I mean, I think I would just say to AAMCO and companies like that, the time for pretending that you're diverse is over, and the time for doing is now. Jerome, you'd like to say anything?
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. The way I feel about the situation is, I was a person that was very passionate about what I did. I've worked with some awesome franchisees who were not a part of that corporate structure, and people that look to put food on their families' tables every day. And I'm very passionate about what I did. And I lost a lot of passion working for a corporation that just wanted to use me as a token. And I just don't think it's fair to take passionate people and take advantage of them for your own benefit. So if you are a person that's being used as a token, and if you are not being compensated correctly, do something about it. Don't be a sacrifice and put yourself out there to move this cause further, because I mean, I'm just very tired of just being just another token to be able to use as marketing material. So that is my statement, and I hope all the best.
Okay. Thank you. I see a request for a headshot of Jerome. We can accommodate that. That's in the Q&A box. We'll take that offline. I'm not showing any further questions. So we just want to remind you really quickly, sorry to beat a dead horse, but if you need to contact any of the speakers you're hearing from today, you can call Max Carlin, 703-276-3255. Media materials online now, piperwolf.com. There's also a direct link in the chat box that you can click on. That'll take you right to the news release. We do thank you for joining this news event held by the law firm Piper Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise. And that will conclude today's news event. Thank you very much for joining.